when you become a member using the promo code COVID today, because I might not be symptomatic tomorrow. You never know. This could be the last chance. Dragon Water said, I like giving you money when I have it. Mount the like button. It can take the mounting. Dragon Water, I absolutely appreciate the support, and I appreciate the reminder to mount that like button. All right, guys, let's jump into the news because we have got a lot of stuff to cover. Now, I just want to start here. Because we all know that the number one thing that most people cared about last November when Joe Biden became the most vote-getting president of any president in history, we know that most people really just wanted to get rid of Donald Trump. Well, most people. I don't believe for one red second that Biden got 81 million votes, but, that's a different conversation for a different day. But it seems as though voting for someone because you don't like mean tweets, it seems as though that maybe wasn't the best call. And a lot of people now seem to be regretting their decision. This is polling numbers that came out this week. Biden's approval is lower than Donald Trump at the same stage of the presidency. President Joe Biden's approval is now lower than former President Donald Trump's at the same time in the presidency, according to a new Quinnipiac poll. The poll, released on Wednesday, showed the president's approval rating stand at 33%, while 53% of Americans disapprove of the job Biden is doing. This represents a 3-point decline since Quinnipiac's survey in November, which found Biden's approval at 36%, while 53% of Americans still disapproved of how he was doing. The figures were slightly different among registered voters, but Biden's approval rating in the most recent poll is lower than former President Trump's approval in a Quinnipiac poll at the same stage of his presidency. In January 2018, they gave Trump an approval rating of 36%, while 59% of respondents disapproved of the job that he was doing. Oh, poor Biden. Poor Biden. I continue to say this, and I know, listen, I don't really feel all that bad for Joe Biden because Joe Biden has gotten himself into this situation his damn self. But there is just one little part of me that feels a little bad about the fact that Joe Biden wanted to be president his entire life. And now that he is president, no one cares and no one likes him. And he probably isn't even aware of the fact that he's president. It's sad. I'm sorry. Can we just have a heart for a second? It is a sad state of affairs. Lewis in the chat says, do you get more from me buying coins and locals since I'm already a member, or this super chat? Locals, definitely. Locals takes a significantly smaller cut than YouTube does. So if you're choosing between the two, I would definitely do locals. Now, I understand why people want to join and be a member in YouTube or give through super chats. And I certainly won't dissuade it, but I do make a greater percent from locals, and I appreciate the support, Lewis. But, even though we might feel sorry for Joe Biden, can we all just kick back and celebrate a little bit about the fact that the OSHA mandate is dead? It is dead. It is deader than dead. The Supreme Court has smacked it down. And this is why, guys, I told so many of you, don't quit your jobs. Because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how things are going to play out. Now, it is absolutely still possible that some of your employers could say, we're going to do the mandate regardless. But now a lot of employers have no consequence if they want to ignore that stupid mandate. Let's read this from CNN. I've taken to lately, when I get news I kind of like reading about it on CNN and MSNBC just to experience the whining and the reeing that goes on and the pearl clutching that goes on in these articles. So let's read this article from CNN. The Supreme Court on Thursday blocked President Joe Biden's vaccine or testing requirement aimed at large businesses but it allowed a vaccine mandate for certain healthcare workers to go into effect nationwide. So that's certain healthcare workers, which of course they're not being specific about that. You know how we covered yesterday that hospitals are now begging people to work when they're sick with COVID because of the stupid vaccine mandate? Well, the Supreme Court basically said that although it did smack down the OSHA mandate, and of course, that's the thing that we're going to celebrate the most today, they did uphold the fact that the Biden administration could require healthcare workers to be vaccinated when they worked in federally funded facilities, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me, but I suppose you got to take what you can get. And there's a reason that those federally funded facilities are probably grossly understaffed right now because they're firing people over vaccines. The decision was a huge hit to Biden's attempts to use the power of the federal government to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. The president has emphasized the necessity of getting vaccinated against the virus for months and eventually decided to use the mandates on large employers as his main vehicle for convincing vaccine hesitant Americans to get their shots. In freezing a lower court opinion that allowed the regulation to go into effect nationwide, the majority sent a clear message to the Occupational Safety and Health Administration charged with protecting workplace safety. It had overstepped its authority in issuing such a sweeping emergency directive that would impact millions of workers. In contrast, the justices said that a separate agency could issue a rule to protect health and safety of Medicare and Medicaid patients. Although Congress has indisputably given OSHA the power to regulate occupational dangers, it has not given that agency the power to regulate public health more broadly, requiring the vaccination of more than 84 million Americans selected simply because they work for employers with more than 100 employees falls into the latter category. Biden issued a statement praising the ruling on healthcare workers, but criticized the ruling on businesses that had much wider effect. I am disappointed that the Supreme Court has chosen to block common sense, life-saving requirements for employees at large businesses that were grounded squarely in both science and the law. Moving forward, Biden said, it is now up to states and individual employers to determine whether their workplaces as safe as possible for employees, whether their businesses will be safe for consumers during this pandemic by requiring employees to take the simple and effective step of getting vaccinated. Well, I mean, clearly, Biden, it actually was not grounded in the law because the Supreme Court struck down your vaccination requirement. But Glenn Greenwald actually had some interesting things to say about this, and he's been reading the opinion. Obviously, like I haven't read it. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't weigh in on this sort of thing. But I do listen to really smart people like Glenn Greenwald, and he had some things to say that I think we should all be keeping in mind. The first thing he said is nothing in today's 6-3 Supreme Court ruling stops Congress from imposing a vaccine mandate for large employers. Congress is free to do so. The ruling is that since Congress did not, Biden and the Department of Labor don't have authority under OSHA to unilaterally impose one. And then we can look and see if this wants to load. Applicants are likely to succeed on the merits of their claim that the secretary lacked authority to impose the mandate. Administrative agencies are creatures of statute. They accordingly possess only the authority that Congress has provided. The Secretary has ordered 84 million Americans to either obtain a COVID-19 vaccine or undergo weekly medical testing at their own expense. This is no everyday exercise of federal power. It is instead a significant encroachment into the lives and health of a vast number of employees. We expect Congress to speak clearly when authorizing an agency to exercise powers of vast economic and political significance. There can be little doubt that OSHA's mandate qualifies as an exercise of such authority. The question is then whether the Act plainly authorizes the Secretary's mandate. It does not. The Act empowers the Secretary to set workplace safety standards, not broad public health measures. Confirming that point, the Act's provisions typically speak that hazards that employees face at work, and no provision of the act addresses public health more generally, which falls outside of OSHA's sphere of expertise. So, in theory, Congress still could pass something, but obviously that's not going to happen in the way things currently are. Dragonwater says, now we need to get a ruling to protect workplaces and schools, including their students, from governors like Oregon's Kate Brown. I absolutely agree with you there, Dragonwater. Glenn Greenwald also had some other things to say, though. Check this out. In Gorsuch's concurrence, signed by Alito and Thomas, he made a passive-aggressive reference to Twitter boasting of Ron Klain, Biden's White House chief of staff, about what a clever workaround of Congress this vaccine mandate is. That was cited as a reason for its legal being legally invalid. There we go. I got there eventually. You got COVID brain. I'm sick. Everything is blamed on COVID brain. But look at this. So this was actually cited in the Supreme Court ruling. So Stephanie Rule, who's a woman on MSNBC, tweeted this out back in September. OSHA during this vax mandate as an emergency workplace safety rule is the ultimate workaround for the federal government to require vaccinations. And it was retweeted by the White House chief of staff. And then in the Supreme Court ruling, check this out. It seems, too, that the agency pursued its regulatory initiatives only as a legislative workaround. Too bad. So sad, Biden administration. But, guys, this is why you don't quit your jobs. This is why, excuse me, this is why you don't take your toys and go home. You fight until the very last moment. I remember back a couple months ago, there were so many people who were like emailing me and getting in contact with me so dejected. Like, what do I do about my job? What do I do about my job? What do I do about my job? And universally, I would say, don't quit. Don't leave. Don't give up. Don't, like, again, we don't know what private employers are going to do or what decisions they're going to make. But I know a lot of people who preemptively quit their job when they didn't have to in order to avoid the vaccine mandate. And I was like begging and pleading with people. I was like, don't do it. Just wait it out. Just wait a couple more months. But people were so quick to quit their jobs. Now, in some cases, like we see Glass Shrimp here, I quit my job and I got one that pays me a lot more. Well, that worked out well. That worked out well. And of course, that's always the ideal that we want to look for. Guys, fun fact, the number one way to get a raise, like a really good raise, is to go work for another company. That's the best way to get a raise, to be honest, is to go work for another company, get another job. But so many people quit preemptively, and it's like, you didn't have to, man. You were inflicting suffering upon yourself for no good reason other than you were scared. And I get that there's reason to be scared, and it's not a perfect ruling, but still. Mandy says, get well soon. Thank you so much, Mandy, for the super chat. I greatly appreciate it. I'll buy some medicine with that. I appreciate the support.